So, welcome back, guys. Obviously, we have had a treat so far. We've seen the very top two teams going head-to-head, and, well, Dingtas did pip, well, Virtus Pro to the post, pretty much, and we'll regain that kind of brilliant final to the first season we had before. But we do have another game coming up. Now, I know a man who can, bring this one in properly. I'm nowhere near as good as it. He's got a fantastic suit on today. So let's hand over to our social media guru who can take you through how you can get involved into this as well. Because obviously it's not just about us here and our predictions. I want to hear from you guys. So, Joe, how are we doing?
Doing really well, if you turn my microphone on. We'll get there with that one. You can't pass it over to me and then leave a microphone muted. This is just being trolled here at this desk. Obviously, I'm filling in for Melly tonight because she's not feeling too well at the moment. So, happy to be here and happy to be giving away loads of free stuff, which I've already done a little bit in the Twitch chat. But don't forget, we want a load of questions to be asking here when we get around to the end of our next match coming up, which, of course, is going to be Dragonborns versus moreWoT. And also I have already put up on the Facebook page, which is of course at facebook.com/WoT Pro League, the last status update. Sadly no polls today. Facebook's trolling us on that front as well. So what I want you to do, go over there, make sure you're liking the page. Also, probably more importantly to you guys, is to guess who you think is going to win this next game, and also guess the correct scoreline. Don't forget it's best of 5, so first team to 3 wins. I've already seen a couple of 4-1s and 2-0s in there, which obviously don't quite count at the end of the day.
Yeah, bless them for trying. I thought my counting ability was a little bit lacking, but, I'm working on it, what can I say? Anyway, as he kindly pointed out, we do have another game coming up, and we did see the top of the table. Now we get to see the kind of bottom view. You have to really fight for this now, because, as we said, this season is not over yet, but it's certainly getting to the point where the games are going to really start to matter for these teams, because, getting through towards the finals and, making sure that they're kind of in the right position is rather important. So both of these teams had a bit of a rocky road through this. Dragonborns are a team who are very talented. We've seen them pulling out some fantastic results, but it's all ups and downs with them at the moment. I don't know what's going on. They seem to have absolutely no consistency, and the same seems to apply for obviously moreWoT.de.
Yeah, well, I think we could have expected that from moreWoT.de because they have not such an experienced team. I mean, they've been playing a long time in Go for What and such. And in A-Series, they came second as well. So, yeah, they've been around the block, but not in this kind of, best of 5 Pro League format where there's obviously a lot more pressure. But, Dragonborns, on the other hand, I mean, our 4th place finisher for Season 1, we didn't expect that, but they played really well and they brought that one out the bag. And,
Definitely.
And I think the fact that they're sitting, in towards that lower end of the table, it is kind of surprising for me because you thought they would have done a little bit better. But, maybe something to do with the fact that they've got a couple of new players in there. It could be any number of reasons, but
we're going to have to find out if we see any of those. Obviously, they are sitting in a 9th place position. But let's have a little look at the two lineups, against each other and go through those players. You said there's a couple of new additions that got made, during the season, changed. Any of those people standing out to you at the moment? Has anyone started to really perform, or have they been kind of the quiet members of the side?
Well, yeah, we've got Dragonborns UK and Ram as well. They're 2 new players. Apart from that, I mean, everyone else is on the team, has been playing around. But, the thing is, the team lineup you see from Dragonborns, like 3 or 4 of their players are on a holiday or doing other things at the moment. So obviously they're not going to be able to play in this game or probably this season, as it is such a short season. But obviously we got Thorus, who's their team leader. Maggots, their second in command as well. Uncro, very good T69 player. I'm not sure if he's on holiday yet, but he's supposed to go on sometime. And obviously we got Crux. I mean, you don't have to say about Crux. Very, very, very good player. Completely carried them through DreamHack. And then on the side of Team moreWoT.de, we've got also quite a few good players, although not quite as experienced as Dragonborn, still plenty of potential. We've got C, he's their team leader. QQ, we saw him play so well, especially with those heavy tanks. 1337 Hacksaw, another great player, regardless of his name. Scarin, we can't leave him behind. He's definitely going to be bringing out all the stops to win against Dragonborns here. So those are 2 team lineups. Plenty of potential, plenty to look forward to in this game.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to see who can really perform under the pressure now. These 2 teams, they are not necessarily performing that well at the moment. But, it comes down to these moments where you see someone really step up their game. And the likes of Magus in the lineup and people like that who are so well known, you know, they're quite a figure. It's surprising to see them not quite playing to that yet. And as you said, they've had a really rocky way through this so far. They've found it very hard to get into the groove of things, you know, whereas teams just instantly adapted to the update, well, other teams have instantly adapted. They seem to be finding it a little bit harder. Maybe that's one of the consequences of it as well. But as you said, lineup changes can happen. So let's just see if they're ready to start tank picking. I think they almost are. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, but, you know, we're talking about Magus. You know, I think, you know, yeah, he can make the decisions very well, and maybe most of his decisions are correct. But it's about the team responding then. You know, it's easy to say, okay, you've got the best teams in the world, but if your team doesn't do what you say, then what are you going to do? I mean, it's still going to be a loss. So it's about your team doing what you say and doing what you want and having what you have in your head, which is kind of conceptual, and then putting it on paper and actually executing. And that's a very, very fine line for most teams.
No, I think that was one of the questions we had, you know, obviously during the last show we did was, you know, what makes a good team leader?
Yeah.
And it's not just the team leader, it's all the members in the team obviously stepping up and making sure they listen and, you know, sticking with the choices that are made and sometimes dealing with the consequences, right or wrong. So we are just, I think we're actually getting underway in the tank pickings here. So I do see a couple of picks here and there. So let's go into that and let's have a little look here exactly what they're going for. I don't think we're going to see anything too out there from these two. I think that they're going to play quite standard personally. But from your opinion, do you think we're going to see a curveball, or do you think we're going to see very standardized, you know, typical picks? Yeah,
well, if we do see him with someone, it will be the Chinese WZ132. Crux is the pioneer of that tank. I think he was probably one of the first players in the season to play, well, Season 1 that is, that tank. So we could see him take that one. But, you know, it's not in favour at the moment so much, and we see it on steps more than we do Prokhorovka these days. As tank picking continues, that is becoming more the case. AMX 3090s from both teams, T69s from both teams. At the moment, moreWoT have the more T69 heavy lineup, but you know they just picked another AMX 3090, so that's evening that up. So far, Dragonborns also pretty much the same, picking AMX 3090s, T69s, and obviously those two T1s being picked early on. We're just waiting on moreWoT DE's last pick, and they will be picking a T69. So I think pretty much mirrored at this point on moreWoT DE picking double AMX 3090, triple T69 plus the two T1. So the same as WoT Pro just played on the last game we just witnessed, which obviously didn't work out for them too well. But we could see moreWoT D have a better tactic here. They're definitely a tactical team, perhaps lacking in some areas, but you know definitely tactical is one of their strong areas. Dragonborns more of a kind of you know they're a very reactional team. You know we always talk about how teams react to situations, and they're definitely a team that has that as their strength. Yeah, but it's pretty mirrored at this point.
Yeah. So with this map in mind, the tank picks we're seeing so far, who do you think is going to edge ahead on this map? You know, Prokhorovka, it's a very well played map. You know, it favours some teams slightly, but it's still, you know, quite one of those maps where you see it just being played out as you'd expect. But who do you think is going to have the edge in this one?
Well, Dragonborns are starting north, and they are a team that plays Prokhorovka actually better from the south, in my opinion. So that can come into the equation. I mean, they've picked their triple AMX 39 up, double T69, double T1. Pretty standard lineup. You know, and they're very good at that lineup. So not surprised that they've taken that. Yeah, I think Dragonborns are definitely a stronger team on this map. And we talked about them beating WoT Pro in Season 1
exactly that.
Finals. So if they can do anything like they did there, then they're certainly going to take this one.
Let's find out. Prokhorovka.
So it's Dragonborns versus moreWoT DE. This is our first map. It will be Prokhorovka. We'll be moving on to Abbey after this one, followed by Himmelsdorf, Steps, and Mines will be our final map. But at the moment, level peggings, no team has a game under their belt. Obviously, Dragonborns are the favourite. I just said I think they are the favourite at least. They have quite a good track record on Prokhorovka, is one of their stronger maps. Filtering off to the western side, the kind of tree, hilly kind of road. I don't know what people call it. Everyone seems to have a different name for it, which is quite annoying. What do you do? Are they going towards the kind of village area, which you do from the south? Yeah.
It's the very standardized way of going into this one. I don't think we've seen much happening. We saw a couple of players splitting off just to keep eyes on in case you made a bit of a break for it down that 5 line. None of that happening because obviously, as you can see there on your minimap now, guys, you can see exactly where the opposition are, and they're nowhere near each other right now. So this could be one of those passive games unless a couple of shells land early on to the advantage of one or the other. But we're going to have to see. moreWoT.de look very comfortable here in the village, just hunkering down, waiting for the moment to have to make a choice or make a push. And what are you guys doing? Are they kind of slowly coming to a halt, or are they edging closer or further forward?
Well, they took a little bit of a risk because they pretty much assumed that moreWoT wouldn't actually go towards this more open side. So they pushed quite far forwards. They put themselves in the open. Obviously, UK in a T69 went straight to the open area, to the middle area, and started doing some blind shots towards where he thought moreWoT are. Indeed, they are there. So good call from him. Ram's pushing forwards in this T1. You can see he'll be wanting to get the initial spot because if he gets lost, it's not a big deal as opposed to hit, well, Crooks or Threaten behind him. If they get lost, obviously the tier 8 point advantage will go to moreWoT, which is obviously if the timer ticks down to 0, will give them the win. But both teams kind of, getting themselves into a position where, we could see some sniping shots. I mean, it's the kind of beginning of this game, They're trying to see if they can hit any blind shots or any T1s. And if they can, then that will put them ahead and that will give them the opportunity to push.
Yeah, we're going to find out that kind of breaking point here because at the moment we do have that kind of standoffish start where both teams are occupying the other side of the map from each other. So neither making an aggressive or gutsy move as such. They're just kind of biding their time and they don't have to really rush it. There's all the time in the world to play with here. Obviously, as you can see in the top right of your corner, 7 minutes and 30 seconds left. But I think that the Dragonborn side are getting a little bit more adventurous as such. They're trying to keep their eyes across the map. You can see a couple of players just scouting it out as such, trying to get the spots in. Because at the moment, moreWoT.de have actually no idea where the opposition are, aside from the fact they're clearly not where they're sitting.
Yeah, well, Threaten just went to the middle. I think he was trying to find a T1. But, if anything, he would have been at least hope that he got spotted, because then once he gets spotted, there must be some sort of T1 in one of the bushes right in front of him here. And then obviously UK can start directing his blind shots from that T69 towards that location. But, the T1 doesn't have any view range to speak of, so Threaten's not being spotted, so, Dragonborns can't make that next play. Threaten's pushing forwards, in fact. Now he hasn't zoom spotted, and he'll be trying to get the proxy spot, the 50-meter rule, which exists in this game. Obviously, with these 50 meters, then you kind of, you automatically spot them because, it's a tank. You have to be able to hear them or see them at least within 50 meters. And he's driving straight towards the T1s now. If he does find them, he'll be able to pick them off very, very quickly.
Yeah, he does have that T1 there, but we do see a 1390 in position well, which sadly missed its shell there. And now he does manage to kind of readjust accordingly. But finally, they've actually found each other, because it was that game of working out, trying to counter-guess where people were hiding and which bushes they were in and which positions they were occupying. But no shells connecting still. So it's still that kind of slowly working out thing. No one's really want to break the silence at the moment. And it's just going to stay that way for now. I think they're just trying to, manage that early spot. They don't want to give too much away. You can see the repositioning here already on my screen. And you can see them asking for the attention towards that midsection of the map, where hopefully those T69s can keep eyes on. Yeah,
that was quite a gutsy move by Threaten, actually, because, well, he had the backup from his T69s and Crooks in their MX-1390 and possibly even Dr. Tour in his MX-1390, but he was so far away from the rest of his teams that even if he has the backup, if moreWoT decided to push onto him, they wouldn't have sustained that much damage and they would have been able to take him down, no problem, and retreat back over the hill, which obviously would give them a huge advantage. Not deciding to make that move, so perhaps a little bit of inexperience from that team coming into play, not making the big decisions that can turn the game in their favor. But with 5 minutes in, no damage has been done by both teams. Some quite gutsy players, we've been saying, by Dragonborns, but it hasn't really paid off for them. But moreWoT haven't really lost anything either way, so it's kind of cancelled out in that respect.
Yeah, exactly that. Both teams just cancelling out each other's, not necessarily efforts, but just kind of minimizing any sort of threat that could have happened. And literally, the moreWoT side are barely moving. The T1 is just making its way up and down that 7 line just to secure any sort of position. But we have finally got a bit of a spot out there.
Yeah. I believe that was, I think, Yukai? No, Dr. Tour playing the MX-3090. He was actually the one that was staying quite far behind the rest of his team, but obviously he was sent forwards now. We can also see Ram on your mini-map. He's pushed forwards in his T1 to occupy a bush. Hopefully going to spot anything that goes across. Dr. Toa spotting out QQ. That'll give Dragonborns quite a good idea exactly where the rest of moreWoT is, which they obviously are going to be camping in that village area with the support of at least one tank from the hill. And now Dragonborns can use that information. They can start formulating a strategy. I think probably revolve around pushing from one of the two ends, probably from the north. That is probably the better idea because they have more bushes and they don't risk so much from the hill.
Yeah, and Dr. Tor has spotted that T1. He's kind of trying to hold the push here from that north side. As you said, it would be the best choice to make. So hopefully you can kind of keep eyes on what attack may be forming from the Dragonborn side. Because, well, so far, little to no movement still from moreWoT. Happy just to sit and wait it out and hope that the shells don't blindly land on them.
Yeah, that's probably the case indeed. Dr. Tor pushing backwards towards his friendly base, I think. With only 3 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock, he doesn't want to get caught out and possibly lose the game in the dying minutes. Crooks is actually pushed forwards a little bit. He's occupying the space. Threaten was trying to get some spots out, but nothing so far. moreWoT playing quite passively. I think they expected Dragonborns to push up into the village. They didn't expect to have this kind of standoff situation you're seeing now. Crooks actually quite risky right here. He's gone forwards. He's gone towards the tracks. Trying to get some spots out. He doesn't, but Dr. Tour done the same from the other side. Interestingly enough, no spots, even though, well, moreWoT is not more than maybe 100 meters away from where they were.
Yeah, exactly that. They have barely moved an inch, but obviously they are keeping tabs on where Dr. Tour is. They can see him at the moment. It's Scarin and Siege there, just keeping eyes on, but they feel no need to move at the moment. There's been no pressure applied, in such a way that they have to respond. So just going to play this one out, play to that time limit. They've got no reason to make a drastic move at the moment unless Dragonborns make the push. So they have just caught a glimpse of Crux going towards their flag. Finally, Scarin does land a fantastic straight across the 6, 7, and 5 line. Beautiful play coming out so far. Yeah, nice little shot by Scarin there. I did say he would be one of the key players for moreWoT. Good T69, choosing his position correctly and is biding his time with his shot. So yeah, so far moreWoT have a slight HP advantage, but it won't be very much as Western Futch gets spotted out on the hill, MX-3090, but it's small enough not to worry too much. He doesn't have to, he's not going to get focused down if he has the cover. He has the contour to support him. But now we're seeing offensive Dragonborns. Yeah, Dragonborns making the move there. Yukai just spotting the only Neo, I do believe, and, well, it'd be very surprising if he didn't, because, well, Neo has got a glimpse of absolutely everyone. I think a shell just landed about a centimetre in front of him. He's going to back away and try and reposition to a bit of a safer location, but also trying to help out those T-69s in the village, because obviously if they get pushed at the same time, as well as the additional fire from down south, they're going to be in trouble. But with only 1 minute and 20 on the board, are Dragonborns really going to go for this? I would think the question is if moreWoT are going to go for it or not. I mean, that they have the cover, they have the better positions in many respects. Dragonborns could get caught out in the middle of everywhere, and that's exactly what they're thinking now. You can see the whole of Dragonborns filtering off towards a more safe location behind this contour right here. As we only have a minute left on the clock, no one wants to risk anything. Ram's still going to be there to spot out any push from moreWoT even. Yeah, but with such a little amount of time, you don't want to risk anything. You want to get back, and you want to replay the game. Yeah, keeping it safe. Obviously, this game does matter a hell of a lot to these guys, and they can't lose it early on. Well, Spade is in trouble. Magus in that T1 comes flying round, gets taken down by QQ there, but still not too much of a worry at this point, really. There's nothing really there. It's almost garbage time as such. With 25 seconds left, no team is going to just, throw caution to the wind. And if they do, I'd probably eat my hat, but I don't have a hat to hand, so I'm probably safe for now. But I think we're going to be going back into this one, basically. Yeah, I think that move by Magus and now Ram even was really about just trying to find out any information they can before the time runs out. Then obviously they can use that information to their advantage in the next round, as it will be a draw. Our first map on Prokhorovka. No team really getting the position or the advantage they need to push on for a win. I would expect the Dragonborns to perhaps be a little bit more offensive, although they were the more offensive team.
But it's a hard situation because if you push against someone who's so hunkered down in the village, then you're definitely asking for a loss.
Yeah, but I felt they had the positional advantage early on, and I'm surprised they didn't make the most of it. I think those players, sprinting across the map, basically, catching the spots here and there, working out where they were. And yet they never took the kind of initiative to go through, which was, I wouldn't say disappointing. I think they're playing it safe. I think they played it cautiously. And obviously, at this point in the table, they can't just be risking things like this. They're already in a dangerous position. 9 and 11. It's not exactly the best of places to be. So, obviously, they don't want to give anything away. But, say with moreWoT, they had, a good HP damage on the opposition.
Yeah.
It wasn't massive, but it was an advantage. And that could be enough to go, all right, guys, let's make the most of this now. They could have done something with it, but both teams being very, very cautious. I think they are just going to sort out if they actually want to change any of the tanks here, so do anything different. So until then, obviously, we just discuss what's going on in the next map. Do we think we're going to see a counter here? Do you think the Dragonborns might go towards that village, assuming the moreWoT will still occupy it? Or do you think they're going to counter each other out and one go one way, the other go the other again?
Well, I think that could be the case indeed. I mean, Prokhorovka is one of those kind of maps where you see one team, both teams kind of like play a little bit more cautiously, try and find any information they can, and then the next map, the next game just goes crazy and everyone just starts going mental and shooting each other, and it just, we just have like a kind of, real firefight. But it's one of those maps, as I said, where you see that kind of first game being the draw, especially since artillery, it doesn't provide that some like one shot out of nowhere which can take you over the 8-point limit you need to win. So that definitely comes into the equation. But I think it depends if these two teams, if they really want this win, they really take the initiative, then they'll find themselves taking it because, I said it over and over again, that's the most important thing in this game. We're just going to go into our second game. This is moreWoT versus Dragonborns. We'll be replaying the first one as obviously it was a draw. We're expecting a little bit more of a dynamic game, a faster game, especially now Dragonborns have the information they need to push on to moreWoT, and it'll be interesting to see if they react on that.
Yeah, I want to see if they can capitalize on it. Last time, obviously they didn't have the information, but they got a couple of spots. They got in a superior position as such. But I want to see them make the most of things. As you said, it can come down to these choices, but I want to see exactly how they line up now if they go down the same routes. Obviously, in the south side, we do have the same kind of starting points as such, so it's going to be interesting if they do go for the exact same start. I do see a lot of moreWoT already heading towards the village, the bigger tanks splitting off that way. And, well, it looks like moreWoT are going for the exact same start here. So maybe we're going to see something different coming out from Dragonborns.
No, they're not. They're just, well, actually, there's a slightly difference. I mean, you can see Dr. Tier, he's positioned himself nicely on the tracks, possibly wanting to get at least a couple of shells onto moreWoT before retreating back to his team, who have done exactly the same thing as they did last time, which is push over towards the road, tree / bush area. But, if he does do it, then he'll get the advantage for his team. But it could end up that he takes a lot more shells than he really wanted, and then suddenly the advantage is in moreWoT's court. So it'll be interesting to see if he can pull it off. If he does, it'll be a really good game from him.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if that one pays off, because we're seeing the almost exact start. We saw Wu make his way up, on the left side of the tracks if you're coming from the south side, doing the exact same sweep across, and I'm hearing even the blind shots being made as well. So it's not making any connection, there's no damage dealt, it's still that same situation. Neo, the only one really doing anything different at the moment, that T1 being up on that G kind of line, but he is retracting back to the K line where we did see him kind of play before, just holding the south side here in case anyone tries to rope around the back. But I think this is going to be almost the same situation unless someone makes almost a mistake here or goes too, aggressive or, makes a bit of an obvious move. I think it's going to come down to a kind of a mistake rather than a choice.
Indeed, indeed. We're just seeing our first spot. That was from Dr. Doe. He spots his Spidey. He misses his first shot, so that's kind of a bad thing. He's got to retreat. Shells landing left, right, and center here. 3 shells in total. I think that was from 2 T-69s at MX-3090. Dr. Doe unbelievably seemed to have avoided all of them, regardless of him just standing still. I think maybe as a result of a slightly frantic moreWoT, just clicking the button and just being like, let's hope it hits. Didn't work out for him. But Spidey got away with that one quite luckily as well, because Dr. Tour missed his first shot.
Yeah, exactly that. So it's that early exchange again, very tentative, very cautious. And the T1 here is deciding to go for a swim and just going to try and get around using the deflator of the hill, not to show himself at all, and just keep eyes on that, because obviously if We did see a push coming from that sort of angle. They want to keep eyes on it and obviously respond early on because they can't allow themselves to be completely open, which is exactly what is happening. So it's almost a replay of the first map at the moment for the moreWoT side. Dragonborns trying a little bit of a difference, switching some things up. Not a vast amount though, but I want to see them actually really bring the game here. They know what moreWoT did last time. They literally have the playbook written out for this side. I want to see them capitalize on that. They're a team who can. Dragonborns are very talented. You know, as you said, they finished extremely highly last season. You know, they got some very surprising results. They've been a little bit quiet this time, but you know, maybe it's that, you know, they need a little bit more assertive nature to them to capitalize on the advantages that they do seem to get. Yeah,
I'm not sure why they didn't do that because, well, certainly from the beginning, they could have just done what Dignitas did in the finals. They put all their tanks towards the water area, and they just waited for Virtus Pro, and it worked out really well. So I think Dragonborns could, they should have shown their cards a little bit. They should have just tried something new, and it could have worked out for them, and they will take the win. Spidey's being spotted once again. He's down to 110, the 5 HP being because he fell off a cliff somewhere. Didn't die like Runes, but pretty close. Dr. Toe is not actually going to go for the shot. He doesn't want to risk getting spotted, perhaps. Maybe there's a AMX-3090 or a T69 sitting up behind. Obviously, that would be disastrous if he gets focus out. Spidey being spotted once again. He's not spotting anything, right? Because it's too far.
Yeah, exactly that. And Garrett is the one keeping eyes on it, just in case, obviously, Spidey does get put down or gets chased as such. But that's about it. These guys are happy playing this one. Very similar, very passive, very cautious, making no moves, locking it down, literally locking down the 6-0 point of this map. The entirety of the east side of the map is now completely in the hands of moreWoT, and they're happy just keeping hold of that for now. What can Dragonborns do in this situation? It feels like a bit of a stalemate here. No team wants to make that big first move, but how can they break this one down? Well,
I think we can do what Evil Panda Squad did against a similar, I think it was Kazna crew. They pushed everything through the middle, and they they won the city battle. They won the firefight. They just pushed in, surrounded the tanks, focused down the ones they wanted dead at the beginning. You know, the T69 that can do so much damage, and that's what really won them the game. But they have to do it with all tanks, and they have to do it really well. Otherwise, a hunkered down team, which is obviously more what DE is, will be able to do the damage. They will be able to avoid the damage, and they will be able to mobilize themselves and really pincer Dragonborns.
Well, we're going to have to see who's going to be on to make the first move here. It looks as though Dragonborns on your minimap, which is a new addition for us, have started to occupy the south side of this map now. But still, no spots coming out from moreWoT, so they could be caught by surprise by this.
Yeah, indeed. If Dragonborns do start to push from the south, which I don't think is a particularly good idea, because obviously you can see how many tanks of moreWoT are in the village, and obviously they'll have the high ground, they'll have the cover, they'll be able to snipe onto Dragonborns, and well, that will be ended disastrously for them. As I said, they should either push from the north or they should push from the middle, and I still think the middle is the best idea because you avoid as much open ground as possible, which is exactly what you want to be doing. We can just see another spot. I think that was Panzerstranzi being spotted by the only one. But nothing really. No, there's no really advantage there. I mean, obviously, moreWoT now know that Panzerstranzi is perhaps in the middle, as opposed to where he was, which was the F2-3 area. He did actually take a shell then. I'm not sure what that was from. I think it was probably from a 1390 sitting on the hill.
Yeah, Haxor is up there, just trying to keep a bit of an overview as such, playing that sniper-esque role, just in case they get any spots towards this. Excuse me, entire train line. You do see, the T1s making their way back up and down. We occasionally join them down by the south point, but that's about it. So I feel that Dragonborns just don't want to take the fight to moreWoT. I feel that, obviously the choices that you're giving them, depend on their one-on-one abilities, which maybe they don't feel so strongly about at the moment. Maybe, the changes that were made don't quite give them the confidence they used to have to kind of challenge on that point. Before maybe they'd have happily gone in through that middle section, as you said, and kind of make the point. But right now they don't feel like doing it. But finally, we're seeing some movement from the bigger tanks, and such the T69s for moreWoT, who were occupying that village. They're just readjusting, getting a little bit closer towards the edge of that 5 and 6 line, and maybe they might do something here. I don't know if they're just adjusting around it because you know, a couple of spots were made. We do see, I believe it's Elite Hacksaw makes way all the way down to that K line to join in with the 2 T1s, well, the 1 T1, and I can imagine that's going to be Wu down there as well. As these guys look like they're changing something up, but whether or not they go on the offensive is a completely different question, really.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to find out if Dragonborns is towards that middle area, perhaps. Crooks is not really in a position to spot out, but he will be able to take down Spidey if he makes the first shot, but that will mean he will probably be spotted, as obviously shooting does reduce, well, completely cancels out all your Camo Valley. He'll make the second shot. First shot was a miss, but now moreWoT DE know he's in the middle, and they could possibly push onto him. Indeed, we see them pushing forwards. Crooks has absolutely no idea that he is there, just because, what, is like 60-meter difference between these two teams?
Yeah, but you can see that base being captured or starting to be captured. Crooks finally showing his face there. Siege is already on the case. T69 fire coming around from the corner. There's 3 T69s here, but you've got to be careful. As you say, Panzer and Yukai not too far away, all very possible at making these shots count. But oh, Siege receiving a shell to the absolute face there. Getting one back on Dr. Tur, but that's about it. Finally, Crooks is getting damaged. Down to 399, 171 make it. As here we go, finally a bit of a break in the silence.
Yeah, Crooks overstayed his welcome a bit there. He took too much damage. He's down to 171, as you said. That's pretty much a one-shot, but now Dragonborns are responding on killing the T1s, which is essential. Wustenfusch overstayed his welcome as well, pushing too far up in that AMX 3090 UK, and Panzerstransky's punishing him for that mistake. Elite Hacksaw's also, Haxor's trying to also provide some backup, but so far, moreWoT DE can't break that cap, and obviously, Yukai will be able to back his team up, will be able to make the shots, taking down Wustenfusch in his AMX 3090, and look at Dragonborns suddenly bringing the game to moreWoT DE and really showing that they're the better team here.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a dominant bit of play coming out. Dr. Tur has been spotted. Scarrin laying down the shells. Hopefully QQ can deal with Dr. Tur, otherwise they're in trouble. Scarrin has to turn around and get some shells going. Down 53. He misses it, but actually, no, QQ will land that one. So trying to claw this one back, but it's still a 3v5. This is not a great situation. Lovely shotgun from Scarrin. But finally, the reply comes back. So back and forth once again, and QQ is in a world of trouble. He's got tanks absolutely everywhere. 133 left on him, and he does go down. And there's very little left to be done for moreWoT DE in this map.
Yeah, brilliant play by Dragonborns. Look at this. You can see Ram actually sitting up behind Magus and taking the win. 34-17 on the scoreboard.
Wow.
Very, very well played by Dragonborns. You know, they put the pressure on the cap. They utilized that pressure. They waited for a slightly less coordinated moreWoT to push onto them, pushing through the middle. Crooks got the damage out. I mean, yeah, overstayed his welcome a bit, which kind of which got him killed in the end. Actually,
eventually it did kind of take him.
But it was a good trade from him.
Yeah, it was, and it was very surprising for a team who was so disciplined. The moreWoT DE side were happily, you know, hunkered down there in the village area, and then when they actually made a bit of a push, a bit of a play, it seemed very disjointed. They seemed to kind of go in a little bit one by one, a little bit here and there. As you said, even though Crooks did outstay his welcome, they still found it very hard to deal with him. Enough damage was dealt, and then, you know, obviously the likes of Panzer come into play and laid down the shells, and it felt a little bit all over the place for them. And I was very surprised, to be fair, because they looked like there would be a team to be able to execute that very well, because they were happy playing to that point. But Dragonborns really showing a bit of dominance. Yeah,
very well played by Dragonborns. You know, I think they should have done that perhaps a little bit earlier. Maybe they were waiting for moreWoT DE to kind of get a little bit complacent, because, you know, obviously, you know, if you're doing a second map, your first map being a draw, and you're going towards, you know, your second draw, then you start becoming a little bit more lazy and complacent and stuff like that. And that's probably what Dragonborns were thinking. That's why they decided to do it at the end. But good play by them. We'll be moving on to our second map, which will be Abbey, a map which we haven't seen that much of moreWoT DE on before.
Yeah, I don't seem to recall, you know, watching many of their games on this, surprisingly. So I'm quite, you know, curious to see what they can bring out, because obviously watching this map, there's been some incredibly individual moments that shine to me, you know, especially in the Abbey as such, where, you know, that T69 play always comes in so key, and it can be so dangerous, especially with that additional reload time. The way they play it out, it can be fantastic, or it can be the absolute downfall of someone. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of face off on this, how they want to kind of line up. In the last game we saw in Abbey, it was a very, you know, one-sided to, you know, this map push as such. We saw, you know, one of the teams really pulling out a bit of a victory of sorts. There will probably be a kind of remembered there. You know, obviously WoT Pro didn't want to go down without a fight, but, you know, they showed us some interesting ways of playing this one out, at least. But I do believe they're going to get underway in the tank picking, so let's put you through to that and get you kind of an idea of what we can expect to see here. Once again, I don't think we can see much of, you know, anything unusual at the moment, or?
No, I think we'll be seeing, well, how many AMX 5100s will be the most interesting thing. How many these two teams decide to take. I think, one team could decide to take 2, one could take 1, and that will be, key to how much damage they can do. But also, can they get back to their base quick enough? Can they reposition them quick enough? If they're driving across the middle of the field, obviously the box that is the AMX 5100 is extremely easy to hit, especially since the accuracy changes to the game. But our first pick has come from Dragonborns T1 AMX 1390. We're just waiting for moreWoT DE to pick. These teams have about a minute to pick both their tanks, both their lineups, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, Dragonborns going for the North spawn. I believe this is their map pick. moreWoT DE are going to have to play from the south, which is sometimes considered the weaker side, depending on your two teams. But Dragonborns and moreWoT DE have done another pick, mirroring Dragonborns taking a T1 AMX 1390 is moreWoT. Dragonborns picking a T69 AMX 1390. So pretty standard stuff so far.
Yeah, no interesting pick so far. I kind of want to see something crazy thrown out there for the sake of it to kind of kick these guys into some strange action. But not going to be happening. Obviously, these guys have to battle out every single fight. They're towards the lower half here, and they need to make their way back towards that middle table. Obviously, with the likes of Spale in there, with Kaznikar, they're not easy teams to come up against if they do make their way through this. But they do need to start racking up the wins. So the picks are going to be very standardized, I can imagine. Yeah,
and Dragonborns actually coming off a loss. They lost 3-1 in their previous match day. So I think, they'll be desperate for a win here. They're not doing so well, as we've been saying, the lower half of the table. moreWoT DE have been doing, not so well either, but they're a new team, so they got that excuse at least. Tank picking continues. AMX 1390 T69 from moreWoT, T1 T69 from both teams, and the last pick from Dragonborns will be a T69. Just waiting on moreWoT to pick their last tank. I think it would also be either an AMX 1390, probably more likely that tank, or a T69. Indeed, it will be an AMX 1390, so that makes it triple T69, double AMX 1390, double T1 for Dragonborns. And for the moreWoT side, they're picking the triple AMX 1390, double T69, double T1. So, again, that exchange between the T69 and the AMX 1390, the only difference between these two teams.
Yeah, so very little difference. Obviously, in the right hands, it can make a world of difference, but we're going to have to find out here. Obviously, we are on Abbey. This is going to be the second map, and these two teams are going to be fighting right down to the wire for this. Dragonborns already ready and up for this one. We are just going to be waiting on the moreWoT DE side. They're ready as well. We are going to be going into Abbey, and, well, I'm excited. You're excited. Let's get underway.
But we'll have to restart, as it looked like one of moreWoT DE's players forgot to enter the battle, probably checking his ammo or something like that. So they are lacking an AMX 1390. So yeah, we'll have to,
these days.
Indeed. Forgetting to enter the battle. Classic mistake. Amateur mistake.
How could they do it? You know what I mean? What?
Back to garage, yeah.
All right, we're going back to the garage.
So yeah, we'll have to.
I got all excited. And
yeah, especially that Mew music. It was
so relaxing. It was very soothing.
Yeah.
It was like an Enya song. It was fantastic. But yeah, obviously these guys are going to have to get themselves back in, repick all the tanks. So hopefully that will take no time at all. Once I get my invite. But while we wait, I think we should see how Mr. Joe Miller's doing, actually, as he's been keeping eyes on the social media side of things and, making sure everything's ticking over perfectly in that sort of segment. So, Mr. Miller, how are we doing?
Doing really good. Like to see a couple of draws here and there. Actually, we had a bit of a discussion in this about how the whole metagame changed with the artillery. And I think this is a good time to bring this up. The fact that the artillery has been changed now, does it lead to more draws in a 7-on-7 environment?
I think we actually asked a lot of the team captains
we asked the team captains this, and they were kind of on the bench in some respects. Some teams said, for Steps and Prokhorovka it certainly does, because, in the kind of dead situation we had in those two games, well, in most of those two games, you know, the artillery breaks the deadlock. You know, it can just hit the T1 or the AMX 3090 and suddenly, you know, the advantage is into the other team. But in some respects, it's not, because then the teams don't have to worry about getting hit by a lucky artillery shot, and they can push and be more offensive. But I think in general, it slightly does increase the amount of draws. It's really about finding that middle of ground with artillery wargaming. You know, they have to find, you know, it's not so it's as powerful it was in 8.5, but it's not as weak as it is in 8.6. And possibly something, you know, when Joe was casting EMS for World of Tanks, I believe it was, that ground where it was kind of tier 5, I think that was the best thing for esports for World of Tanks in general. So, yeah.
Yeah, don't forget, guys, you can send us more questions via the Twitch chat. I'm in there right now. You're just arguing about random things, and it's all a lot of fun in there tonight. A lot of people in. Don't forget, you can still get your votes in, since we're only one map in, over on facebook.com/WoT Pro League. Right now, actually, seems like everyone's pretty much set on a Dragonborns victory.
Okay. So, Dragonborns with a favour, the higher seed as such here. So, hopefully, they can pull it off. Tim, you look lovely.
Tim is not changing the camera away from me today.
But
cheers, Tim.
It's all right. We got away from him, but we're going back into Abby. Hopefully this time they remember how to actually bring themselves into the game. And sadly, no more Joe Miller on your camera, but we do get some Abby.
Indeed, indeed. I think I prefer to see Abby than Joe Miller. I don't know. It's a 50-50.
Have you seen that man's beard? It's beautiful.
Obviously, Tim wants to see Joe Miller more than Abby.
Everyone wants to see Joe Miller. Joe, just call me Joe Miller.
Well, both teams saying good luck, good luck. This will be our second game. I guess obviously the first one wasn't a draw. It's just one. I think Wustenfush forgot to press the battle button or something. So yeah, second game, Abby. At the moment, Dragonborns leading 1-0 after a draw on Prokhorovka, but taking the second game very well. Good capping strategy from them. Hey, if they can use that brain, they can use that momentum in this game, in this map even, then they will go 2-0 up, and they could possibly even do a 3-0 against moreWoT here.
Yeah, they certainly could. If any team can, they can pull it out here. But we're going to find out if they actually can. That's the big question. And actually seeing a bit of a strange start to this one. I haven't seen a team going for this kind of setup yet. We see the AMX 1390 within the hands of WoT as such, pushed up into that Abbey. Scarin and QQ not too far behind, so more backing him up like a big brother in school if you're getting bullied, bless him. So Dr. Tour and Threnton both being spotted. Burshal has landed. So already a nice start for moreWoT.de.
Yeah, quite an unusual tactic by Dragonborns, pushing both AMX 1390s up into the middle, using the speed of the tank to get there before the T69 can. But, you know, Panzerschranz took a shot. Dr. Tour just took a shot as well. So at the moment, moreWoT have the slight HP advantage, although, well, it won't make that much of a difference when it comes down to it. I mean, 400 HP or so, it's not a big deal when you're talking about, you know, 6,000–7,000 HP throughout the whole team. Crook's pushing up forwards. Yukai's behind him. Panzerschranz, he's also there to support. But, you know, both these teams don't have AMX 5100, so a really offensive push by could be a much harder thing, because they won't have that HP, they won't have the damage. So they've got to do it a little bit more cautiously, a little bit more, you know, a little bit more cleverly. They can't just barge in there.
Yeah, and you've already seen Siege having to back off here. He was really pushed up on that 1 and 2 line. He got a shell off and then has to retract back. Obviously, he's the only player down there in that 1390, so he's just kind of sat back in a bit of a different position, expecting a push to come, and he might be right looking so. As you can see, the Dragonborn side are edging towards that sort of area, so he could be in for a little bit of trouble. But we're going to have to see if he can actually deal with the pressure that's going to be mounted.
Yeah, at the moment, Dragonborn's playing quite a good game. They're kind of moving the tanks all over the place, you know, from A to B, depending on where the other team is. And that's exactly what you should be doing on Abbey. You should be playing to the tank strength. You should be playing to the map strength, which is really about sections. Obviously, you have the western area, which is the mountainside, often people call it, which is, we just saw Virtus Pro beat Dignitas on. And then we have the middle area, the Abbey area, which is more your light tank play. And then we have the trench area, which is the same as the mountain area in a lot of respects, but there's obviously a lot less cover. Dragonborn's pushing forwards now. Crooks is there. Dr. Tour is there. Another spot out. Wustenfush is AMX 1390 being spotted. It's good news for Dragonborns, because now they know that they can push over the mountainside without finding too much resistance.
Yeah, exactly that. Siege is literally the guardian as such of that area, with QQ backing him up, and Scar not too far behind, but it's generally like a big bit of defense coming out from the moreWoT side, allowing the lighter tier tanks just to push down that 7 and 8 line even, otherwise it would be in the water. But they are making their way forward. I think we're seeing the T1 there, just makes way all the way down with Hacksaw and Neo in tow. So already pushing up a touch, but you can see the spots once again coming out. So let's see if he has actually caught a glimpse of the entirety of the side of pushing towards him. It's Dr. Tur again that he's caught a glimpse of. The player he did get that shell off on towards earlier. So 848 up against 1100 HP at the moment. He has received a shell. They're going to have to back away now. So one shell is enough to do the work as such. And that's going to cause a bit of a chain reaction here for moreWoT. Yeah,
good little shot there by UK taking him down. So now that HP advantage moreWoT had is slightly mitigated. 1 shot for 2 shots. Crux UK, you know, they're not going to be able to get back to their base quite as quickly as they would like, and I'm pretty sure they don't realize how long it's going to take them. But they are retreating now. They are going to have to get themselves out of that situation. Magus is actually sitting on the hill, so as you can see, moreWoT have gone towards the base, but they're actually retreating now.
Yeah, moreWoT, though, pushing straight up that 6 and 7 line. So Wu Siege joining Iceman and Neo, who made that early push down that 8 line. So the entirety of moreWoT are now going on the offensive, but towards the cap point rather than the teams. Are they just trying to avoid each other at the moment?
Well, I think they saw that if they take a shell right onto that western area, and then they thought, well, okay, there can't be too much of Dragonborns towards this trench area / base area. And that's why they're pushing in. Magus reversing straight away because he knew he was spotted. He does spot out most of moreWoT. Now they know exactly what moreWoT is up to, and they can react. And if Dragonborns can do this properly, they can possibly react to it. But this is a very strong play for moreWoT.
Yeah, brave bit of play coming out. You can see Wu has pushed forward, and he's going to be the one to get the kill. They're taking down Magus, QQ and Skarn still being the linebackers as such, holding the line, and they do get a couple of shells off. It's Thorin to receive 1 and a second, going down, taking him as low as possible, finally getting put to bed by QQ himself. So, well, Dragonborns so far are being picked apart, but finally, here come the big boys, but they're being met with such resistance.
Yeah, this is too little, too late. Oh no, UK does a brilliant blind shot onto the base of their own base, resetting the cap. 10 seconds left. UK doing another brilliant blind shot, taking out Iceman. That'll be a 3rd blind shot, taking out Siege. Brilliant play from him, especially as a new player, wanting to do those things. He wanting to prove himself, but still, Dragonborns are 2 tanks down to 1 tier 8 tank of moreWoT. So they still don't have the firepower, and they're still being capped.
Yeah, indeed, and Wu is pushing up onto Yukai, but actually it's QQ to get the shell off onto Dr. Tur, so further damage being dealt towards Dragonborns, who now only have 2 left alive, and all the work of Yukai right now is going down the drain. That fantastic play is now going to be all in the hands of himself, pretty much, as Wu is going to push forward. First shell does actually land onto him, so there's the second, following, as a T69 not, but there comes the reload, and now the entirety of moreWoT just decide to just absolutely decimating. So only Panzer stands, and I don't think there's much he can do right now.
I know, there certainly isn't. Great play from moreWoT, putting the offensive to Dragonborns, and now Panzer Stransky has no chance at all. 5 seconds left on the clock. He has quite a lot of HP, but against 4 tier 8 tanks, 2 MX-3090s, 2 69s, he has no chance at all. But the base is captured anyway. It's game over. It's 1-1.
Yeah, exactly that. And what a way to see it played out there. moreWoT really brought the fight to Dragonborns. Almost to remind them that, you know, we can still play like that. We messed up a little bit on the first map. We didn't execute it perfectly. But when we want to, we certainly can. So that was an impressive bit of play coming out.
It very much was. I mean, a reactionary play from them, perhaps something we haven't seen a lot of. But you know, they as you said, they proved themselves a little bit there, yeah. And it was very basic maneuvers. You know, they saw, okay, UK or at least 1 or 2 T69s are over towards the mountain area, out of position. They're slow tanks, so won't be able to get back to the base. So let's just push over here and let's just put all our cards on the table and see what will happen. And it worked out for them, and it's exactly what you should be doing on Abbey.
Yeah, gutsy play coming out. I don't think it's going to quite work on Himmelsdorf, which is going to be the next map. It's one of those that you don't really see too much variation as such. You have your kind of set 2 or 3 ways of kind of facing it off with, you know what I mean? There's the ways you might adapt slightly, but certainly nothing like that where it's, you know, completely off the wall way of playing, or very brave to say the very least. Now, who do you think is going to be more suited on this map? We've seen two very different maps kind of being played out very differently as well. But who's going to kind of enjoy Himmelsdorf more?
Well, I think this is moreWoT's map. We saw them beat Kazna Crew on it, although they lost 3-1 in the end. They play this map very well. They've beaten a lot of good teams on this one. Dragonborns, on the other hand, definitely a map they struggle on. You know, we saw them just win on Prokhorovka, and that's the kind of map they like. They like those open maps, regardless of the fact they don't have artillery anymore. But with Himmelsdorf, as you said, it's really, you have a few set positions to play. You have to rely on your heavy tanks, and that's where they struggle. But, you know, it's not like this map is always been played like that. There was a point where it was played in a much more chaotic style. It's just been a map that's been there since day one, like 2 years ago, a year, maybe a year and a half ago.
So it's just evolved into it.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happened. And the only difference really is how teams have utilized the hill, and since the introduction of the T69, how that metagame's changed.
Well, we're going to have to find out. I think they're just about ready to get underway with the tank picking here, so we'll be seeing if, you know, what sort of way they want to kind of face this one off on. I've very rarely seen much variation. I think it's very standardized, again, just because of, you know, the exchange, the way they hold the banana push, and, you know, that kind of play that just kind of makes sure it's very, you know, regular as such.
Indeed. Tank picking has started. Magus picking the first two T1s from him. moreWoT, quite interestingly, a team that picks T32s. They did pick T32s on Himmelsdorf to start off with, but they've kind of moved away to picking it on something like Mines, which is something we haven't seen for a very, very long time. We'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see. But tank picking continues. moreWoT IS3 AMX 5100. Dragonborns double AMX 5100 picks from them. Standard stuff. moreWoT responding with a T69 IS3. Dragonborns picking double IS3. The last pick from moreWoT will be an AMX 5100. And the last pick from Dragonborns, probably, I reckon, a T69.
Yeah, safe bet, I'd say. And I do love seeing the IS-3s. It's still my favourite tank. So I love getting to see that actually in play here. So I don't think it's necessarily the most defining tank in this, but it can always do some fantastic work. You know, early on, if there's any, you know, gutsy pushes as such, it's always the one to kind of deal the damage there, and towards the end of it, it always seems to be on mopping up, because you can position it so well that it's almost impervious for a fair, you know, amount of this game. So I do love it when it gets played out properly. So I think they're just going to go to the toilet, having a quick break, you know, literally running to the bathroom and back, because, well, the pressure is now mounting on, so these guys do need to make sure that they don't get it too much to them, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So on this map, as you said, the slight variations may come in the form of the way they play the hill, or, you know, certain other minute aspects that do obviously make the game slightly vary. Do you think we're going to see much of that coming out from these two, or do you think they're going to play it how we usually see, or is it just going to be down to them on the day whether they fancy switching something up?
Well, usually I would say we'll definitely see some sort of hill engagement. But Dragonborns have done something which we haven't seen since the beginning. Well, we haven't seen at all this season, in fact, at least for the games we've witnessed and the replays I've watched. They've actually taken triple AMX 5100 double IS3 2T1s. Usually you see that last AMX 5100 being replaced by a T69 since it was introduced. This is a very old lineup, a very veteran lineup, tested lineup as well, but not quite as a practice, so it might be in the back of their minds a little bit. But if they've been training it, I did say last week, or Monday actually, I think, that why are the teams are picking the T69 as the last tank all the times? I've noted it. Obviously, it is a good tank in most respects, but the MX 5100 is equally as good in loads of respects. It can just do more damage. It can take more damage. So I think it's a decent pick for them, and if it can work, then it will really work.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see if that's just the mentality they're now falling back into, to go back to something they're maybe more comfortable in. Considering they did so well in that first season, to now a bit of a rocky start in the second. I can't even call it a start anymore, we're so far into it now, but maybe going back to basics is something that might suit them. But we're just going to have to find out now, because we are going into Himmelsdorf.
And welcome back. It's Dragonborns versus moreWoT. We can see which team can go to town and take this one. We are on our third map. One team has taken an open map. One team has taken a hybrid map. Which one will take the city map? We will find out in the next 10 minutes, probably. Dragonborns pushing straight along the middle area. Those triple AMX50-100s being very aggressive. Obviously, they won't have reload for probably about another 20 to 30 seconds. But still, doesn't matter. They're pushing straight into the middle, hoping to catch perhaps some shots for the IS-3s.
Yeah, no guts, no glory is clearly what they're sticking for here, but it's not paid off just yet. Yukai has just received a shell from Haxor there. That IS-3 battle already just coming into play. So here comes the offensive again from Dragonborns. These guys aren't backing off. The AMX50-100s are literally piling on now. So Haxor having to back away a bit, play a little bit more passive, and they're being surrounded by Dragonborns. What is going on right now?
I have no idea. We haven't seen this tactic first. We saw the triple MX50 Yarthak getting blown away completely. I'm not sure why he was sitting right behind Threaten, because Threaten can't reverse. Now he's in trouble. 407 will be his base health. 2 more shots, 321, 86. They're completely blown away, and the triple MX50-100s won't be able to mitigate this. I think this will be just a bad decision for Dragonborns, even though it was quite like initiative-based.
Yeah, initiative is fantastic with some execution, but right now they're playing into the hands of moreWoT unless they win these fights somehow, which just isn't happening. Scar in there, just enjoying the fact that he's got such an advantage over them. The damage dealt early on, leaving only 3 alive for Dragonborns now. Magus, Yukai, and Dr. Tur somehow have to dig deep here, and I just don't think they can. There's no way they can pull this one off. QQ is now leading the way around there, back towards the flag, spotting up Magnus, just going to ram straight into him pretty much. And there we have it. Only Yukai and Dr. Tur left standing now. And they've just been outplayed, outgamed by moreWoT, who just sat back and let them come to them. This is a very strange choice from Dragonborns.
Yeah, I think it was one of those tactics that either work spectacularly or just lose and fail spectacularly, and obviously the latter being the case here. Dragonborns would have won that one, perhaps if they didn't find the double IS-3, T69 sitting behind that corner, which I don't know why you wouldn't expect that, because that is usually where they are at the beginning, and obviously the T69, if it isn't there, you can come off the hill very quickly. You know, I think it could have even worked in that situation, but Sharthak and Threaten got blown away completely. And then, you know, Crooks and the other MX50-100, let me just check his name, I can't remember, Panzerstransky, they should have pushed around, they should have put the offensive straight onto moreWoT, but they couldn't because they didn't have reload.
Yeah. I really don't get what Dragonborns just did. You know, maybe there's some method to the madness that I'm just not aware of, but clearly moreWoT, they just stepped up and they didn't even have to really do much. They just had to say, okay guys, let's just land our shells. That's an easy one in the bag. Thank you very much, Dragonborns. And I felt that was almost rushed from them. You know, they literally just went, health of the level, let's just go straight down mid and hope for the best. And the IS-3s were just there and waiting. And the positioning very early on, with the first shell connected, they couldn't find a reply. Yeah. They already had to swing around, you know, onto where, you know, facing Banana as such, towards, obviously, moreWoT's end, where the vast majority of the team were just sitting and just waiting.
Yeah. I think it's one of those situations where, you know, we were talking about it a little bit earlier. If your team captain says something and it's maybe the right decision, but if you don't execute it, then those are, you know, that's very bad. And I think, you know, those triple MX50-100 were probably told to push even more aggressively, you know, push around the corner away from that middle area. And then that would have caused moreWoT's turrets to turn. The IS-3 obviously has a very slow turret reverse, which means that Threaten and Shark Attack and those 2 IS-3s can push forwards. They can shoot them in the side or behind, get some real damage as those BL9s. And then those 3 MX50-100s will have the reload, and then they will be able to finish them off. But obviously, they sat back. They couldn't mitigate any damage from Sharthak. Sharthak Threaten got blown away, and then those AMX51 didn't stand a chance from there on.
I'm just still very surprised at this. As you said, I'm not sure if it was just, you know, that poor execution that really kind of held them back there, but I wouldn't expect it from Dragonborns. Yeah. They're a side, you know, I think you already lightly hit on the fact that they do have an issue sometimes, you know, executing their strategies, but to see it to that extent, you know, at a game like this, very surprising, but I think they are getting ready to get the tank picks underway into the next map here. It will be Steps, which we've been really treated to so far. There's been some brilliant games. I think Kaznica and Spale especially really showed us some interesting ways of playing this one, to say the, well, very least. And yeah, they're getting underway. So what are we seeing so far? Well,
we're seeing MX-3090s and T69s, and we've been talking about that WZ-132. which will be picked by Crooks if it's picked by anyone. That was his tank on this map originally at the beginning of the season. Whether he's going to pick it here, so far not looking like it will be the case. Obviously, it will probably be the last pick from Dragonborns. Oh, well, no, Dragonborns and pick the AMX 3090 as the last pick, so we won't be seeing it. Unfortunately, it would have been interesting to see if any team can really make that one work. But yeah, T1s, AMX 3090s, the 2 picks from both teams to start off with. Double T69s from both teams as well, so mirrored there. And mirrored once again by 2 AMX 5100 being picked. So from both sides, triple AMX 3090s even, double T69s, double T1s.
Yeah, so literally back and forth pick. No one really going for any, off-the-wall picks. They're playing it out exactly how they want to. Both teams are ready, and we're going to be underway just in a second into steps here. So, guys, get yourself ready. This is going to be a massive game. Obviously, Dragonborns not quite performing on that last map, throwing caution to the wind, and it just didn't pay off. So, hopefully, they can pull themselves back together here because, well, it's running away from them now, and you don't have to give moreWoT a second chance to pick that one up. Hopefully, they can kind of sort out the issues. Whatever went wrong last map, they've got to kind of put it out of their minds and get ready to face off against a new opponent almost on a new map. Just fresh start it, and guys, listen to the calls, listen to the comms, and execute it perfectly because, well, it clearly did not work last map. But let's find out if it's going to pay off here on Steps.
So it's Dragonborns versus moreWoT. Dragonborns won on Prokrovka. moreWoT took it back on Abbey and then completely crushed the rather dubious push from Dragonborns on Himmelsdorf. So it's 2-1 to moreWoT at the moment. Dragonborns have to take this one back to level the scores to stop moreWoT taking it 3-1. Which obviously they want to do. I mean, they just lost, I think, to Kaznakru 3-1 in the previous match day. Obviously, they don't want to lose 2 matches in one day. Obviously, pushing over towards the eastern side, the more trench area, hoping to find moreWoT. We saw Dignitas versus Virtus Pro doing the same thing, but not managing to find each other, not managing to connect the shells. But if they can find a T1, then there'll be an advantage.
Yeah, and really, really passive play coming out at the moment. Siege is the only one really to make any sort of move forward, but it's more to hold the line. And, well, moreWoT are doing almost what we saw before. They've picked a point and they're locking it down. I don't think we can see an early exchange at all from these two. I think it's going to be very much a see how it goes as such. You see a more spread out Dragonborns, whereas moreWoT are more focused towards that 1 and 2 line, making the way up together. Siege still leading as such, being the... well, point to the spear, kind of just cutting through the mountains, going to head across towards the opposition's flag, and I'll be very surprised if they go for this kind of strategy again. Yeah,
Dragonborn's pushing towards the cap, hoping to spot out some perhaps a T1 or 2. If they can obviously say that, that'll be the lights over for them. But, both teams quite happy to stick with the status quo. This is what we see most teams play on Steps. They did the same on Prokrovka. Himmelsdorf obviously was a little bit different, but, Dragonborns will be the team that throws it out there a little bit. They will be the ones breaking the mold a little bit more than moreWoT. Perhaps they'll do it here, perhaps they won't. But so far, exactly what we'd expect from both teams. But, I think we're going to have a situation here where perhaps a tank gets caught out, perhaps an AMX 3090 or a T69 gets caught out, and the other team will be able to capitalize on that, will be able to focus it down. They'll be able to really bring the game to them. They'll be able to get that firepower advantage. They'll be able to get that tank advantage. And that'll be really, really key here.
Yeah, exactly that. So we saw that early push-up coming out from moreWoT, now splitting off, leaving 2 more to a kind of middle ground, whereas the others are now forming back towards the flag. They may be almost, a bit of a nagging thing in the back of the mind going, well, we haven't spotted these guys. We haven't seen them down mid. Where are they right now? So Sisha has made his way back, as well as Hacksaw and Neo, just to keep eyes on that flag, keep eyes on the flank. And actually, already they're at a disadvantage here. That's Iceman out of the picture, so that early T1 was caught out by Dr. Tour there in his 1390. So, I'm not sure how much impact that's going to have now, but clearly the upper hand to Dragonborns.
Yeah, QQ being spotted there, not actually receiving a shell. Yukai missing his first shell and his second, but he's kind of in the middle of everywhere, and this is what I was talking about. Can Dragonborns or moreWoT catch one of these tanks out? Thren's being spotted. He is in the middle of everywhere, but he also has that spot, that stone, but that won't help him too much as he does have to get out of there very quickly. Unfortunately for him, he couldn't land any damage onto QQ, but he did actually receive one shell, probably from an MX-3090, bringing him down to 875. But QQ just received one as well, so level peggings in that respect.
Yeah, a nice exchange for both sides. I don't think anyone came out really at a massive loss there. As you say, QQ was damaged up in that T69. 1102 is now what he's left on, but no real need to panic just as of yet. He's still in a good position. He's still okay. Not too much has been given away. Scar in there still behind him, just in case he needs to spring into action. And he's just going to let a couple of shells off, trying to clear it out. Wu might have had maybe an idea where one of the opposition were, you know, 1390 just by the flag. And he's not wrong thinking that, so he might get a nice connection here.
Yeah, they're trying to find Magus. No luck so far. Line shots going left, right, and center, mostly into these bushes here. He's obviously behind the fallen tree, which I believe he felled already. Threatened Panzerstransky moving forwards. They're trying to probably find a Wustenfuch in his MX-1390, trying to catch him out, trying to do a surprise pincer move on. They will find him. He's not going to retreat. Threaten's going to take a shell, but it's 2 versus 1. I think Wustenfuch is going to be in trouble. Going 521. It's 3 against 1, in fact. Wustenfuch left on low health, but he has managed to escape with his life. And now Dragonborn's taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, they are indeed, but he has gone down there. Now QQ is in trouble. Crux made his way straight across towards him. The exchange is going down right now. The shell's being connected. I don't think he has the reload, so it finally gets it back. 124 left on Crux, but there we have it. The AMX 1390 coming out the victor of that one. Hacksaw springing in, trying to get a couple of the opposition down. Yukai goes down, but look, he's literally surrounded by Dragonborns right now. I highly doubt he's going to get out of this alive. He has managed to find Crux, but there's still 2 very much poignant tanks alive and kicking.
Yeah, very well played by Crux, really managing to do the damage whilst not taking very much. He should have gone down a lot earlier, and now Dragonborns can actually just get the sniping shots on Threaten, doing a few hundred damage before retreating. He is a 2-shot at the moment, 336 left on his HP. 1337, Haxel was his victim. Scarin's still quite healthy in his T69, so Dragonborns have to keep that in mind with any push they do. But Magus and Ram can really start to play well now. But Ram is going to have to connect the shells. Neo's actually burning. Dr. Till is just going to ram him, no problems at all, completely blowing him away. Obviously, the MX-3090 being a lot heavier than that T1.
Yeah, indeed. So it's almost an impossible situation now for moreWoT. The base is being captured. The pressure was applied just about everywhere, really ripping apart the moreWoT side, leaving only 3 standing. So Scarin, Hacksaw, and Siege still up and kicking, whereas the vast majority of the opposition are still alive. So Yukai being damaged there. Shells coming in. Dr. Tor has found Siege, who was already heavily damaged, and now Yukai only on 69 HP. Hacksaw needs to land another shell, but he's getting fire coming in from Magus of all people in that T1, so pressure absolutely ever. Scarin finding Yukai finally. Now 2v, well, a hell of a lot of Dragonborns.
Yeah, but the problem for Dragonborns is that most of their tanks are actually split up. You can look on your minimap and you see them absolutely everywhere, while moreWoT have pretty much all their tanks consolidated around this kind of rocky, hilly area, which will be a big advantage for them, especially with Scarin sitting at about 50% HP. But Dragonborn's putting on quite a lot of pressure by capping. Scarin's going to take a shell to his side. 444, 2 shots will be the end for him. Threaten's going to take a shell. He didn't expect to get hit so fast, but he makes a huge mistake, letting himself get taken out by Scarin.
Wow.
And suddenly moreWoT back in the game. But no, Dragonborns finish it with a cap.
Yeah, Siege just couldn't get, well, Hacksaw even could not get back there in time to do any sort of damage to that or make any sort of odds. And what a completely different strategy again. We're seeing, it's like seeing brand new teams every time we're watching these guys on different maps.
It's really strange, isn't it?
Absolutely incredible. You know, they're willing to pull out the kind of stranger strats on some maps, and they suddenly go, okay guys, let's play a little bit more normal now. That one did not work. But Dragonborns then looked so different to the way they played Himmelsdorf. That's a huge change. Yeah,
and I think it's that open map thing we have with Dragonborns coming out again. You know, they play like a proper pro team then, you know. We would have expected something like that from like Dignitas or Virtus Pro. I mean, especially at the beginning. Towards the end of the game, you know, they got a little bit split up and a little bit, you know, kind of focused down, which perhaps wouldn't have happened to Dignitas or Team Dignitas or Virtus Pro. But at least at the beginning, they played so well. I mean, there's definitely a map they're strong on. But now we have Mines, which is kind of your hybrid map. They have to bring, lessons they learned from Himmelsdorf and lessons they learned from Steps all together to win this one.
Yeah, indeed. The pressure is certainly on now, so they have to consolidate whatever they can take back quickly to the drawing board during this small break they seem to want it to be going to. And I'm kind of curious what's going on in social media right now, because I would never have guessed what's happening at the moment. Hopefully, Mr. Joe Miller can give us an idea exactly what's going on over there in the world of social media, just to kind of update us, because these guys do need to kind of rethink things, reset, and obviously recalculate what's going on. So how are we doing, Mr. Miller?
We're doing perfectly fine over here, thank you. I've decided to change my English here just for the benefit of you lovely folk in the Twitch chat who are having a discussion about how my English isn't correct. So right now, everything is basically perfect. Back over to you.
Sorry, I was just drinking, and I was cracking up trying to drink because of Joe's voice. So yeah, I do apologise for that. I just got some water at the back of my throat. It's all good now. We should be ready to tank big. Oh no, still bio break indeed. So we can talk a little bit about the
we can actually do a bit more of this.
We can do a little bit more social media.
We're going back to him right now.
So actually, it turns out quite a lot of people got quite close to this one now, because I've got a few 3-2s in there to either way. I say in a few, there's quite a lot of 3-2s. I'm going to have to be keeping an eye on them as we approach the end of the game to make sure no one's sneaking the changes in there at the end. But mostly, as I said before, 3-2 Dragonborns, 3-2 Dragonborns. Lots of people favouring Dragonborns here, but I don't know, I'm not sure. High pressure 5th game.
Indeed, that's exactly what it is. And I kind of miss the accent, to be fair. I want to hear some more of that, because I know you're such a fan of us Southerners, so I want to hear more Queen's English from Joe Miller.
No.
Yes. No. One day. Anyway.
We should send him to language school or something.
I don't think we should. He's got a beautiful voice. Anyway, obviously we've heard your thoughts, and I don't think I could have called this one, to be fair. I think both teams have really shown completely different sides to their own way of playing these games. Obviously Dragonborns there being the clearest cut example, pulling out some off-the-wall strategies and just almost throwing away a map, and that's very un-them-like. I'd expect it from Spale, you know what I mean, to kind of pull something completely roundabout and go charging up one way and just live with their choices, but not Dragonborns. But anyway, obviously this is a close game, people pipping Dragonborns to be the ones to kind of edge ahead here, so we're going to have to find out if this could be the map that they kind of do it on. And I do believe they are going to start the tank picks. They have just got themselves ready, so obviously back from the break, and now tank picks underway. Indeed,
they are. 2 T1s, 2 T69s been picked from both teams. AMX 1390, T69, the last pick from moreWoT DE. We're expecting pretty standard lineups. I mean, interestingly enough, Bison has been like a kind of a point of interest for the teams. Sometimes it seemed to have worked quite well, doing about 800 to 1,000 damage. Sometimes it hasn't been doing so well. So if these two teams decide to go with a more risky lineup, then they could possibly work, or it could possibly just tank completely and go horribly wrong. Last picks from moreWoT DE, picking a T1, T69. Previously, Dragonborns picked an AMX 1390 T69. So at the moment, pretty the same lineups as we've seen on most maps. AMX 1390 T69 combos.
Yeah, so similar all around, but what I've learned so far is no matter how similar the picks are, the way they play it can be so different. The way one player to, almost the same player, plays the same tank can be complete parallels. They can be so far away from each other, and I want to see how they play this map, because Mines has always been quite a quick-paced map for me. Everyone says, they miss the arty on here, but this map seems really quick to me. Every time there's that clash in the middle, and I want to see how these guys do it. Obviously, they're a talented bunch, and I'd be very surprised if Dragonborns pull off, another strange strategy. I think they're going quite normal on this one. Yeah.
Well, there's definitely their strongest map in terms of hybrid maps. They're certainly a lot better at it than the Abbey, as we saw. They got completely crushed there.
Yeah.
One of the teams to pioneer, actually, well, first the Bison lineups, and then also the push from the Eastern City. They pushed over the hill, and then they send AMX 1390s along here and kind of grab the whole of the other team in the kind of basket pincers situation. It worked out really well for them. Definitely a tactic that we could see here, although it's come kind of a mainstay for them, so it's kind of predictable. Last picks from both teams being a T69, so we can just quickly go over the lineup. 2 AMX 1390s, even triple T69, double T1s coming from Dragonborns, triple T69, no, 4 T69s,
Wow.
1 AMX 1390s, 2 T1s. So really going for that hold down favoured tank.
Exactly. We have to see if that's going to pay off right now. So both sides do look like they're ready to go. moreWoT and Dragonborns both saying they are ready. So hopefully we'll be underway in Mines in just a moment to see if we're going to see another crazy strategy or if they're going to go back to basics and play this one out as much as they can and really work for every single shell they fire. Because that's what it means to these guys. They are at the bottom of the table. They're fighting for every single point they can get. And, well, it can come down to these games. It can come down to these matches. So every single moment really does count. So hopefully, you know, Dragonborns pull it together. They did, well, seemingly very well on that last map. But the one before that, it was a completely different picture. So both of these sides do have something to prove now. And we're going to find out on Mines.
We're into our 5th and final map. Dragonborn sitting 2-2 against moreWoT. They obviously took the 2 open maps, Prokhorovka and Steps. moreWoT definitely the stronger team on Himmelsdorf and Abbey. And interestingly enough, Abbey is quite similar in some respects in terms of, you know, you have to get the higher ground and you have to use the lot of the cover on the map in the same way. So, you know, in that kind of respect, they definitely are the stronger team. But Dragonborns, as I said, they are so strong on Mines, and they've proven themselves over and over again to beat teams that perhaps are a little bit more, you know, you would expect them to win more. First spot's going out, 1337 Hacksaw spotting Dr. Tour, but you know, Dr. Tour expected that, and he's retreating now.
Yeah, that he is. Siege is there laying in wait, but he's actually received a shell. yukai has done some damage and received back, so it's a little bit of an exchange. But Siege coming off slightly worse than that T69 with only 859 health points remaining, whereas yukai up on 1107. But now damage being dealt just about everywhere. QQ receiving a shell as well, so moreWoT not doing so well off the start here.
Yeah, at the moment they're playing straight into Dragonborn's hand. I mean, claw, I should say, even I guess they're dragons. Crooks,
Wow.
Panzerstransky sitting there waiting for them to push up the hill, landing the shells, and then getting back behind the contour. Good little strategy from them. We're just seeing another T1 being spotted, in fact, by Magus. I believe that was probably, I think, is it Iceman towards that village area? Or
it's
is
Neo.
It's Neo, it's the only one. Neo, okay, fine. He's just supporting them. He's trying to find out if Dragonborns are going to do that cheesy, kind of cheesy-esque push from the eastern village. But Dragonborns are kind of, they're looking quite offensive at this point.
Yeah, indeed. And, well, moreWoT are just sitting back and waiting for the push, pretty much. You can see the vast amount of presence, you know, across that F line, you know, completely leaving out the island, not putting any sort of presence there. Iceman sitting back way on that H line, just playing it very passively in that T1, just in case anyone does go up there. But I think they're just going to play this one out as best they can. The only one I really see it making any movement so far was Elite Hacksaw, really, who's kind of edging around, trying to get an initial spot coming out. But I can hear a couple of shells going off. Are they making any sort of connection right now?
No, that will be threatened, trying to land some shells into the base of moreWoT. He's probably trying to pick up a T1 if he can. No luck so far. That's not where the only Neo is. yukai spotting out onto Scarin. He did receive a shell, or he did shoot a shell. That's some shell projectile dust, I guess you could call it, coming out from the end of his gun. Didn't connect it. Scarin's still sitting there nice and pretty with 135. And now yukai, he's on his own, kind of. He's in a situation that he could get himself surrounded. Wustenfuch just taking another shell. moreWoT receiving far too much damage, especially since nothing has really happened.
Yeah, they're allowing themselves to be worked away at here. They're slowly being picked apart, which is, as you said, we saw it before. They get themselves damaged and they have to then somehow make it happen in their favor. And it's so hard coming back into this, especially on a map like this where it's almost, you know, mirrored as such. You know, it's very even. You know, no team has a massive advantage positionally, so you've got to be careful with that HP. You can't just go, you know, running around like it just doesn't matter, because towards the later half of this game, you know, even the smallest amount of damage dealt towards you can make all the odds. It can be the difference between receiving 1 shell and 2 to make all the kills, and that can define everything. So hopefully moreWoT just kind of work that issue out. They need to play a little bit safer maybe. They're barely moving, but when they spot one, they all seem to react and kind of get around it all. Yeah, indeed. We just saw an interesting move from Dragonborns pushing Dr. Tour up, threatening Yukai being the ones to do that. This is a good move from Dragonborns. I was expecting it, to be honest. I wonder why they didn't do it a minute earlier. Obviously now we're 4 minutes in, but that will give Dragonborns a nice little position to do some good damage if moreWoT decide to push along and try and snipe off that hill. But obviously he's got to be careful, because last week we saw, I think it was Zenith or someone from Evil Panda Squad doing the same move and completely wasting, I believe it was actually Eclipse in his T69. So you've got to do it really well, but if it does work out, then it's definitely a game-winning move. It's a fantastic position, but whether or not they can draw the moreWoT side into actually become prey to that is a very different question itself. So Neo can spot Magus again. Hacksaw, though, is the one to kind of spring around into action as well. So now the shots coming from that T1 in the hands of Neo himself. And maybe Hacksaw's going to be the one to put him to bed, but we're going to find out if he's going to give everything away for that. There we go. It's actually QQ who will land that shell, allowing him to show his hand as such, and Hacksaw can kind of retain that slight secrecy towards that middle map area. So early advantage, I can kind of call it, to the moreWoT side. But then again, the HP damage, it's a very hard situation to call. Yeah, that's a risky move from Magus. But as you said, HP does make more of a difference in quite a lot of respects, and Mines isn't one of those maps where T1s are as essential. I mean, if this was Himmelsdorf, then I would be saying, okay, now moreWoT can really use that to their advantage. I'm not sure why Magus decided to sit behind that destructible building for quite as long as he did. He did have the opportunity to move out of that location, or maybe he would have got caught in between the two buildings. Obviously, he's a brilliant T1 player. He obviously got them qualified for DreamHack back when they played Meteor Makers, now D-Nova, on Wide Park. Now, Threaten's also playing quite offensively. He's pushing forwards. He knows that moreWoT is slightly distracted by the fact that they took down Magus on the Eastern Village, and I think he can get into a position to perhaps counter a push from moreWoT across the island area. Yeah, that would be a fantastic place to be if they're actually deciding to move. So far, they're quite happy dug in pretty deep. So Threaten has been spotted, though. So, you can see a couple of them just edging a little bit closer towards the rocks to make sure they can't be seen so comfortably. But other than that, that's about it. So Skyrim might be the one to make the move. And actually, I can hear some shells landing. Ooh, Threaten got tracked. Very risky position from him. He will take another shell. The problem for him right now is that Pototomako did the same last time, and he got completely wasted. But he's got himself behind a position. He's got himself behind a rock, which is all good. Dr. Tour's also played his hand. He's landing 2 shells onto 1337 Hacksaw. Lee Hacksaw, what if you like, another shell landing on 365. And obviously he took 2 shells before he did. Dr. Tour reversing out of there. He did the damage from a distracted moreWoT. It's exactly what he wanted. Good play from both Dragonborns and moreWoT. Losing similar amount of health, but Dragonborns had that initial health advantage. So at the moment, I would say Dragonborns have the game. Yeah, certainly, unless Crux does something desperately wrong here, but so far he's playing it well. He's just showing a touch of himself there over the defilade of that hill in the T69. And Scarring keeping close eyes on that one. All eyes trained on that little bit of a pass there, but no one wanted to make the move. As you said, Dragonborns came off slightly better in that situation, but slightly is the only way to put it. And are they going for another boost here? Indeed, they saw Dr. Tour took about half HP, and then they're saying, okay, let's just see if we can get another tank up there, which has more HP, and then we can reset and we can perhaps do even more damage. But they gave up because they would need an AMX 5100 to do that last final piece of push. It obviously has more horsepower, it's heavier. AMX 3090 T69 is just simply not enough just to push a T69 up there. Dragonborns still in good positions, 2 minutes left on the clock. If they decide to push, which I think they should do that, kind of cheesy tactic from the Eastern Village and push over the middle, then they will win the firefight. It's just if they want to make that move. We're going to just have to find out and wait for it pretty much. Crux again showing himself, but no one landing a shell. Scarring is still there, laying off a couple of shots, but once again not connecting. This is such a tentative game right now. No team wants to make the mistake or show too much of themselves. And we are just going to have to find out who exactly is going to be the one to break this silence. Indeed, indeed.
Well, not very much time to break the silence. I mean, 1 minute and 30 seconds. It's barely enough time to kill a tier 8 tank, especially where these two teams are positioned at the moment. I think we'll see both teams perhaps retreating a little bit, getting themselves into a more defensive area for the last 1 minute, countering possibly a cheesy push. But, you know, it's really unfortunate because Dragonborns had that advantage. I'm not sure what advantage they were looking for anymore. Skyrim taking another 400 damage in his T69 from Panzerstransky. And at the moment, Dragonborns not capitalizing on the HP advantage at all.
No, indeed. I don't think this one's going to be played out any further than what we're seeing right now. And I can imagine this is going to end in a draw with 55 seconds left. I don't think either side wants to just, you know, throw caution to the wind as such and just go straight in there. And obviously this game really does matter to both of these guys, so they're just going to play this one out as best they can, learn as much as possible, let off a couple of shells, hope for maybe some connections here and there, but I'm not seeing much really land, apart from then when Skyrim actually received about 200 damage, so maybe I spoke too soon.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Skyrim's playing very riskily. He doesn't have to worry too much because he knows he can actually reverse and get into a safe position. But now we're actually seeing a push from Dragonborns, getting found out straight away by Seek. But Seek's real low already. He's on 600 HP, gets taken down to 346. But Crooks and Yukai could possibly finish him off. They're not doing that. They're going to retreat. Threaten's now in trouble. 168. He does actually get in time. This is bad news for Dragonborns as there are 8 seconds left on the clock. Dr. Chua is trying to take it back. He will have to do the damage. You have to get him down. He does indeed. But Leek Haxor's on the hill now.
Indeed, the damage is being dealt just about everywhere. But we have a draw.
We have a draw.
We have another draw.
That was a close game. I mean, if Dr. Chua didn't actually connect the shells and he perhaps did a little bit of missed a shell or hit a tracks or something, then it would have been game over. I mean, 10 seconds if you lose at tier 8, you're in serious trouble.
Yeah, it did come right down to the wire then, and we saw both teams retaining some sort of their initial form, enough to take it into a draw. So we'll be obviously facing off on Mines again. Once we find out if they're going to be sticking with the same lineup or they're going to be switching things up, I don't think they're going to switch too much up. I think it was very, you know, a clear-cut game there. Good choices were made. I think that obviously they just got stuck in that stalemate, really.
Indeed. I mean, it's an unfortunate stalemate because, as I said, I think DB had the advantage. Yeah. They just didn't capitalize on it. More DE was, I think, pretty much thankful. I think they'll be counting their blessings there a bit, because if Dragonborns had played more offensively at the beginning and as I said, do that cheesy eastern side village push, then they would have almost certainly won. You know, I think they maybe threatened on the island, losing about 450, 500 HP was the reason why they didn't push quite as offensively towards the end game, but we'll have to obviously ask Magus or one of the team leaders for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be quite interesting to find out. Hopefully we can find out for the next play day exactly why that went down, that sort of situation. Now let's go check they are ready. I think we're getting ready from both sides. So we should be back into Mines very quickly, so do not fear, guys. Obviously, this game is being drawn out because it matters so much, and they are towards that rather dangerous lower part of the table. You know, 9th and 11th place, I do believe. So it's not exactly the best positions to be in, so every game counts to these guys. And they might have to fight tooth and nail, which is exactly what they're doing right now. But I think they have funds, good lucks are being said. So we're going to go back into Mines, and we're going to have to face off again, pretty much. And do you think Elm's going to switch anything up? Do you think maybe Dragonborns are going to go a little bit more offensive initially, or do you think we're just going to kind of see that play out in a similar way?
Well, I think what we'll probably see is more DE not be quite as frivolous with their HP, won't push up the hill too much. They won't want to make the same mistakes twice. Dragonborns probably will try something completely new, I'd expect, after the first initial spots. They will probably do the same thing they did at the beginning, but then I think they'll probably try a push over the village area, combined with a push over the middle. We'll just have to wait and see. Obviously, moreWoT DE will probably want to get that initial advantage because they lost it so early on in the previous game.
Yeah, and looking at them right now, they seem to be heading off in a very similar fashion, but this map kind of almost dictates that. So we have to see if they do switch anything up. Haxor is made his way through that 4 and 5 line, just once again trying to spot out any initial kind of opposition, basically, so swinging around as he did previously. And he does catch a glimpse of Dr. Tur, but this time the shell has landed, and he receives one back in retort from Yukai in that T69. Yeah,
but at the moment, moreWoT has a little bit of HP advantage, obviously. You know, there's so much randomness in this game. Anything from penetration to damage your shell does, and obviously Dr. Tur came out the worst there, losing about 20 more HP than the opposition. But Dragonborns playing almost exactly like they did last map. I think moreWoT, you know, they want to be doing something different, but I can almost feel that they can't think of what they want to do differently.
Yeah, it's almost exactly the same right now. You're seeing Siege in the same place, you're seeing Haxor in the same place, and Neo, and I can assume that Iceman is, yeah, in the same place. So these guys are doing exactly the same way. They haven't changed anything right now. So it's just going to have to be the one-on-one execution that is going to be the difference here. So we're just going to have to find out if they can, you know, make a difference, if they can save that HP damage that was dealt to them, if they can be careful with it. But we're just going to have to find out if they can play it a little bit better.
Yeah, moreWoT putting another tank on the hill. Crook's just taking another one, but he responds with another one. Seek actually very unluckily hitting the gun of Crook, so obviously that doing no damage at all. And since the changes to heat ammunition, that's definitely more likely. Obviously, if heat ammo hits a track or something, it won't do damage. I mean, previously it would go through the track and hit the superstructure, fair enough. But now tracks act kind of like spaced armor against heat ammo, which is a big nerf for T69s. Surprisingly enough, it doesn't seem to have changed the lineup. I mean, look at both these two teams: 4 T69s from moreWoT, 3 from Dragonborns. I would have thought perhaps you know, your AMX 3090s or your AMX 5100s would have been the more popular pick, but obviously I don't know very much.
You're not allowed to say these things about yourself. I meant to insult you with these things. Dear Lord, man. But we are going to just see the stalemate once again. Neither side wanted to, you know, risk too much too early on. QQ, as he was before. And Haxor, Scarin, and Siege once again locking down that kind of middle of the map. So we are just going to have to find out who's, you know, what would you have done in this situation? You know, you did play this game at a relatively high level back into there. I said relatively high. Come on, it could have been a lot worse.
Right.
But what would you do in this situation? You know, you're playing against Sonic, can be one of those deciding maps. How would you go about winning this? Would you have switched something up here, or would you have gone into the same sort of gameplay? Well,
so far from all these games, this is our 5th map now. We've seen every single map. The common trend for both these two teams is that they're quite happy to play the status quo. Okay, Dragonborns kind of threw it up in the air on Himmelsdorf, but every single time once we've had a draw, both the teams have played the same strategy again in the next round. Now, if a team decided, okay, we're not going to play the same strategy, we're going to try something new, then that will completely throw the other team off balance, and that would probably win the game. So what I would have done is probably take, you know, a faster lineup, definitely not so many T69s, and then just crazily, you know, rushed over someplace, try and get the initial tank down, you know, focus down an AMX 3090 or T69 straight away, get yourself a firepower advantage, and then work from that spot onwards.
Well, maybe there's a little bit of a change coming from the moreWoT side. They lost that T1 that was Neo, who was put down in the village again, but they have pushed up QQ and Haxor doing just the work. Scarin joining as well. 3 of the tanks lining up now, laying down the shells. It's Crux to receive a hell of a lot of damage, and maybe this is what we're going to see. Yeah, but Thren's going to push up. He's going to find the back of 1337. Haxor's going to try and mitigate some of the damage. He takes 1 shell, but 1337 Haxor doesn't quite have the HP of Threaten, so he probably will win this engagement, but no, he doesn't. He disengages, although QQ probably was on reload, and suddenly moreWoT have done exactly what I thought they would do. They would, you know, try and get the early advantage, try and take down the T8 tank. They took down UK, but they've taken a lot of damage in return. Yeah, they have, but looking at Threaten and Crux, they're not in the best position. He did manage to pick up the frag onto Siege, but quickly avenged by QQ, making his way down the hill and challenging onto Crux as well. He will pick that one up in that T69. So fantastic play from moreWoT, and they're finally bringing the fight out. Yeah, indeed, Panzerstrancy taking another 400 damage, and I said this would be the team that could do it. If they could take it to the next level, they would do it. Panzerstrancy so lucky that he didn't get killed then. He actually bounced the shell. Very unlucky. Very lucky for him and very unlucky for moreWoT. It depends which side you look at it from. But Dr. Tour is sitting on reasonably good health as he charges straight into a rock. Not looking where he's going, obviously. It depends if he's got reload or not, if he'll be able to do anything here. Missing his first shot, in fact. QQ is completely ignoring the fact of Dr. Tour. They went straight for Panzer, slicing in between them directly. And he is right in this at the moment. Dr. Tour will go down, leaving only Magus alive. And moreWoT just stamped their authority throughout that later half of this game then. That was fantastic bit of initiative play coming out from those guys. Indeed, and I think it was all about which team decided to do it first. I mean, you know, Dragonborns had such an advantage in the first game, and they couldn't do it. moreWoT didn't have any advantage then, and they could do it. So that's how easy it would have been for Dragonborns to take this win. But moreWoT had that initiative, they had that drive, they really want the win.
And that's why they won. I mean, you know, it wasn't even like a clever push. They just pushed over the middle.
That's all you need to when you're able to execute them just like that. That was fantastic play coming out of these guys. I can't stress it enough. For a pair of teams who are fighting out at the lower half of this season. I mean, these guys are at the very bottom. They're still showing us such fantastic play, such brilliant, ambitious play as well. We saw Dragonborns trying, these crazy stretches to try and get them back into the game. And this is just summing up how good this season is. Watching the very top of the ranking so far to even the very bottom, you're still seeing some incredible bits of play coming out.
It's so close. I mean, the games weren't actually that dissimilar. The kind of tactics they used, the tanks they picked, nothing really between them. I mean, that's how close the season is, as you said. And at this point, although we're 10, 11, 12 match days in, we still don't know which top 6 teams will be going to Gamescom. It could be any of these ones. And as you said, these are the games that will decide that. I mean, how many... We had like 4 teams in Season 1 that could have gone through, but they had to win their last game, and Dragonborns was one of them. But they have to win these games, and they're just slipping at the moment.
It's crazy to think. Even just looking at the rankings so far, Spale are still out of that top 6.
Yeah,
what I mean?
Surprising, right?
These guys, there's so many talented people within this at the moment. It's absolutely incredible. We've been treated to some brilliant games. Obviously, we've enjoyed it, but I do kind of want to hear what your thoughts at home are. Were your predictions right in that game? I know a man who can tell us just the thing. He's got a fantastic English accent as well. I don't know what you guys are going on about. But, Joe, how are you doing over there?
Going really well now that I can, relax with my normal accent after all that. But actually, not many people, excuse me, not many people actually guessed that it was going to go that way. A lot of people had 3-2, but most of them actually favoured Dragonborns after that one. So I've actually already picked out 3 guys who, in 8 minutes or 10 minutes, you're going to realise that you've actually won this vote, and it's going to be cool times for you. And I'll send out codes to you, and also the rest of what we've got hanging around, I will put nicely into the Twitch chat for the end of today. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun from my side of things. Enjoyed chatting to you guys in the Twitch chat. Not been a lot of questions today, but I kind of like that in a way. I think the discussion is good as well. So thanks very much, guys, for partaking in that, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.
Well, we do love having Mr. Joe Miller here. Obviously, I don't think I can say I don't want Melly to come back, but he's been pretty much a glamorous assistant throughout.
You definitely want me here all the time. Stop lying to yourself.
I can't say on camera. People, make up terrible stories, and everyone knows I want Joe here every week. Twice a week.
Twice a week, yeah.
Twice a week. You can go away. We'll just have Joe back.
Fine.
Joe can do everything.
Fine. Let's just have Joe. Let's have Melly on the social media. The Joe show, exactly.
It'd be fantastic.
Maybe even Stephen could replace you. Then it would be even better.
That'd be stupid. Anyway, his stupidity aside, we've had some brilliant games, and obviously, do you not know that
just
word?
threw in the insult at the end. It's a quick one just before she's going to end, so I can't retort. But I will. You're stupid. Done.
Anyway, back to the outro of this. Obviously, we've had some brilliant games. We've had the very top of the league and the very kind of bottom one showing us exactly what they're made of. And both games were, an absolute treasure to watch. And guys, make sure you watch the VODs as well. They will be put on the WoTProLeague.com website. Obviously, just make your way through it. Check out all the other games going back as well. Obviously, we're on Matchday 11 and 12 today. So there's a lot of other games you can watch. And if you do want to learn how to play, certain tanks or, pick up a couple of strategies, they're the places you've got to be doing it. But guys, we'll be back on the 15th with the next match day with some more incredible games I can only imagine. Hopefully we get Joe back, or maybe Melly if we have to. And if I'm stuck with him, so be it. But guys, I've enjoyed myself. I'm sure you have. Make sure you follow this Twitch page. Tweet about it, get involved, because guys, we love hearing from you, and hopefully we'll see you on the 15th.